right, everyone. I got another question submitted that I thought was kind of an interesting one and that could maybe be helpful for a lot of people who are pursuing some endurance goal. And the question is, how do you structure recovery after a big race or an ultra marathon? Um, I like this one right now too, specifically because I'm kind of in this phase of training right now where I just finished a big race. So recovery right now is the primary goal. I need to kind of recoup my energies and let my body heal up before taking on any more training or racing. So the way I usually describe this at first is you should be looking at recovery after a big effort in kind of two different angles or two different lenses. One, the physical side of it, and then the other, the mental side of it. So the physical side of it, I think everyone understands more or less that, after the race, you're likely pretty sore the next couple of days, you're hobbling around. There's not a whole lot of motivation to get back into training because your body's just going to limit you from being able to do that for the most part anyhow. So what I usually do from that side is I give myself a couple days, 2 or 3 days usually, where the thought of even going out for a run or something is just doesn't even cross my mind. It's a non-option. No reason to do it. No reason to think about it. I should be just relaxing my body, maybe walking around a little bit. That's fine. Or, maybe some light swimming or cycling or something like that if you feel okay to get some blood flow to your legs. But more or less the primary goal needs to be recovery at that point. Once I kind of get to the second half of the week, it usually depends what point of the year I am. If I finished the last race of the season, I'm going to be way more conservative as to how I start kind of testing to see how my body's doing. But if I've got another race coming up, if it's if I'm doing say 2 or 3 races in the second half of the year and I just finished the second one and I'm going to try to be doing another training block before that next one, I might start trying to kind of see how my body's doing at that second half of the week by just doing some really short, light, unstructured runs. Just kind of feeling is there any soreness, is there any aches and pains anywhere that are normally not there? Is there anything I need to do mobility wise to kind of catch things up after the effort I had just done? And just kind of do a self-assessment. And at no point during this part do I ever rule out just bailing out on a run. I've done it before where, I'd finished a race, took 4 complete days off, decided on the 5th day to maybe just go, jog for 30, 40 minutes, see how I feel. And I got down to the end of the block and stopped and said, no, I'm not ready yet. And just walk back. So you really have to be in a position to say no and not hold yourself kind of hostage to doing, say, that 30 to 40 minute easy run. If your body says, I'm just not quite ready yet, give me some more time. Usually by the second week though, I'll start doing some more light running on a regular basis and even start pushing up into an hour or so of running. And I mean, it's all relative based on kind of your previous volume and training style too. So what I do is maybe different than what someone else would do if they're following a lower volume training approach, or they're just at a point in their running career that they haven't built up a huge foundation of volume. But that second week, I'm going to be running a little more consistently, but it's still going to be primarily focused on recovery. I'm just really kind of gauging where I'm at, how motivated am I to kind of take on another training block, and just really feeling things out and getting a good feel for it. So the other side to that is that mental component. Because I think a mistake that can easily be made is you run a race and you do really well and you're excited. You want nothing more but to get back out there and do it again. You want to kind of chase that to a degree. And it can be easy then to expedite the recovery process and be back on the training wagon really quickly, and then find yourself a third of the way into your next training block wishing you would have taken an extra week at the beginning. But then at that point, your timeline is already set and it's a lot harder to scale back significantly without having to restructure your entire training plan or racing schedule. So I think taking that mental inventory in those next 2 weeks is very important too. You need to ask yourself, how excited are you to do the peak training phase that ultimately is going to come up once you finish, moving through a kind of a base phase of training again. And are you able to wrap your head around that? Are you able to kind of push a little harder when you maybe don't want to on a structured hard workout day? And if the answer is no, then I think you probably just need to take a little more time to let your mind catch up. The other thing I like to talk about when recovery is part of the recovery process is kind of figuring out what you do want to do next, especially if it's the last race this season and maybe you don't have your next event picked out. And this is where I like to tell people when you're picking a race, and I think this is more general too, not just in the context of recovery, but in general, you definitely want to be motivated by the places that you're going to train in. You want to be inspired to be out there. You want to be excited to be out there. You want to enjoy the process getting to the race, because that's where the majority of the time is spent. If you're not going to enjoy the process of getting to the race, then I guess I would just ask why you're doing it in the first place. There's plenty of ways to move your body. So pick one you enjoy. And in the world of ultra running, it's pretty unique in that there's just such a variety of different places you can run. So for me, I kind of ask myself, like, well, where do I feel like training? Do I feel like training on the trails? Do I feel like training on mountains? Do I feel like training on roads? Do I feel like doing loops around a track, that sort of thing? And, that's kind of guides a little, at least to a degree, guides kind of what I'm going to pick next. So I'm thinking of that. Like, I'm thinking about what excites me the most, what's going to be mentally stimulating through the training plan, and am I mentally fresh enough to take on a new plan? And this can range quite a bit in time. I've had some where I'm just like chomping at the bit to go midway through that second week. And I have times where I get to the second week and I still want nothing to do with the race. I don't want to think about it at all. So I think you just need, at the end of the day, you need to be honest with yourself with that sort of thing, and you be smart about letting your body and your mind kind of catch back up. So kind of another side to the recovery or the off season, which I think fits into this topic kind of nicely, because off season essentially by default is the primary goal is to recover, recoup, and be ready for that next big buildup. So what does an off season look like, or what should an off season look like? And I think this is where we see a pretty big range. We see folks who literally do not take an off season. And we see folks who take a massive off season and like hardly get off the couch. And those are kind of the extreme ends of the spectrum. And I like to be kind of somewhere in the middle there on an off season. I never, unless I'm injured, which rarely happens. I've been injured one time since I started ultra marathon running for any significant amount of time. But if I'm not injured, like, my goal during an off season isn't to kind of lose all my fitness and start from scratch. My goal is to let that peak fitness relax or slack, because that's kind of the unsustainable state. When I'm at my peak fitness, or if any endurance is at their peak fitness, they're on this kind of razor's edge that they can hold for, maybe a couple of months before your body's like, okay, I can't handle this level of fitness any longer. I need to scale back. I need to recover. I need to let things catch up. So the goal in an off season is to let go of that for a while, let go of some of that top end speed or that sharpened spear that you developed for a specific race, but not so much that you completely start from scratch, like I said before. So the way I like to describe it is, it's okay to get unfit, like, so that you lose like 10 to maybe 20% of your peak fitness. But you want to kind of keep that foundation there to a degree, so that when you do start building back up, you're not starting from the beginning, kind of getting in a position where you could potentially get hurt because you haven't been doing anything for a long period of time. And then you're trying to get back into your normal training and being too aggressive. I find that when you kind of keep that base foundation of fitness in place year round, it just makes peaking a lot easier. You don't have to do as much to get to peak. So you're not stressing your body as hard to get up to those kind of unsustainable phases of training, unsustainable year round, that is. So thinking about it that way too, like I'm not a big fan of saying, like, at the end of a season, okay, I'm not gonna run for the next 2 months or something like that, or not work out for sure. So there are different ways to do that. I see, especially in the sport of ultra marathon, when you get in kind of the mountain side of things, you see folks taking large chunks of times off from running, but they're often doing other things. They're out hiking in the trails, they're out skiing, they're out doing all kinds of other like cross training type stuff, where they're letting their body and their mind kind of relax from the specific mechanics of running and the mindset of running, but they're not letting their body get unfit or out of shape, so that when they do start back up, they have a base level of fitness there in place. All right, folks, so that's kind of my recovery protocol. I hope this is helpful. As always, if you have any other questions about this specific topic or any other topic you'd like me to address, please reach out to me. You can shoot me a form on my website at zachbitter.com, or you can reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter. Instagram is @ZachBitter and Twitter is @ZBitter.